You're picturing the perfect family vacation, right? Sparkling blue water, endless buffets, and your kids laughing by the pool. It's sold as a floating paradise, the safest, most carefree way to see the world. But behind the polished brass and welcoming smiles, the curtain is being pulled back on a much different reality. For a growing number of families, that dream vacation is turning into a nightmare, and the cruise lines are hoping you never hear their stories. We aren't talking about a simple sunburn or missing the boat at port. We're talking about a documented, alarming rise in violent crime, out-of-control illnesses on ships that are failing basic hygiene tests, and safety failures that can have catastrophic consequences. The official reports paint a grim picture, one every family needs to see before they book their next trip. Forget what the shiny brochures tell you. Let's talk about the facts. In just the first 3 months of 2025, U.S. authorities recorded 48 serious crimes on cruise ships. That's the highest number for a first quarter period in at least 6 years. And the most terrifying part? A staggering 33 of those cases were sexual assaults. This isn't a rare occurrence anymore, it's a trend, and it's only the tip of the iceberg. The most disturbing danger, and the one that should put every parent on high alert, is the explosion of crime at sea. For the full year of 2025, the Department of Transportation reported a record-breaking 181 crimes across all cruise lines. Of those, a horrifying 121 were sexual crimes. And while cruise lines will point out that passenger numbers are also rising, that doesn't make the spike in violent offenses any less shocking. These aren't just statistics. They are families whose lives were shattered on what was supposed to be a vacation. The problem is widespread. In 2025, Royal Caribbean reported 39 instances of sexual assault and rape, while Carnival reported 31. But it isn't just a few lines. These reports span the industry, even on lines with a squeaky clean, family-friendly image. So why is this happening? Experts point to a perfect storm. Thousands of people in a confined space, a culture of heavy drinking, and a tangled web of maritime laws that can make getting justice feel nearly impossible. What's worse, the numbers you see are very likely underreported. Official statistics often only include crimes involving U.S. citizens. Assaults against the thousands of foreign crew members or international passengers may never appear in these public reports. On top of that, cruise lines have discretion in how they classify incidents, meaning some violent assaults might not get reported publicly at all. As one former Secret Service agent noted, cruise lines are often reluctant to report information that brings a dark cloud over the industry. For your family, this means the illusion of a secure, floating resort is just that, an illusion. Family protection. Tip: your cabin is your only truly private space, so treat it like a fortress. Use the deadbolt and security latch at all times. Never leave your drink unattended, and teach your kids never to accept one from anyone. And make this a firm rule. No one in the family, especially children and teens, goes into anyone else's cabin, passenger or crew. If something happens, report it to ship security immediately. But remember, their first loyalty may be to their employer, not to you. Nothing ruins a vacation faster than a nasty stomach bug. On a cruise ship, it can become a full-blown crisis. We've all heard horror stories about norovirus, the highly contagious bug that causes days of misery. What you probably don't know is that major outbreaks are happening more often. In recent years, the number of gastrointestinal illness outbreaks on cruise ships has hit multi-year highs. These outbreaks can knock hundreds of people off their feet at once. On one recent Fred Olsen cruise, around 200 people fell ill with gastroenteritis symptoms, turning the ship into what a passenger called an unpleasant environment, where even contact sports like dancing were canceled. On a Royal Caribbean ship, another outbreak took down 94 passengers and 4 crew members. The cause often comes down to one thing: poor sanitation. The CDC's Vessel Sanitation Program, VSP, conducts surprise inspections of ships docking in the U.S. A score of 86 or higher is passing. Anything less is a failure. And major lines are failing. In August 2025, the Villa V Odyssey failed its inspection with a score of 81. In February 2025, ships from major lines like Norwegian and Oceania also failed. Common violations found on failing ships include food stored at unsafe temperatures, buffet sneeze guards that don't actually protect the food, and even whirlpool spas not being disinfected between guests. These aren't minor slip-ups. They are the perfect recipe for germs to spread like wildfire through kids' clubs, crowded buffets, and pools. Family protection. Tip: before you even think about booking, go to the CDC's VSP website. You can look up any ship and see its entire inspection history. If a ship has a record of failing or barely passing, see that as a giant red flag. On board, be relentless with hand hygiene. Wash your hands with soap and water often, especially before you eat. If someone in your family gets sick, document everything. Take pictures of any unsanitary conditions and keep detailed records from the ship's medical center. Beyond germs, there are mechanical and structural dangers that can turn a luxury vessel into a floating death trap. U.S. Coast Guard inspections have revealed hundreds of safety deficiencies on cruise ships every year, ranging from concerning to downright terrifying. One of the most alarming and common problems is broken fire screen doors that fail to latch. A critical failure that could let a fire rage uncontrollably through a ship. And fires do happen. In December 2024, an electrical fire broke out on the MSC Seashore just after it left port. While the crew put it out quickly with no reported injuries, passengers described total panic as the ship lost power, trapping people in elevators and limiting food service. Imagine being stuck in a smoky, narrow hallway with thousands of other terrified passengers desperately trying to find your children. The Coast Guard also finds dozens of other issues, like leaking lifeboats, exposed electrical wiring, fuel leaks, and even cracks in a ship's hull. These findings suggest a system where maintenance and safety sometimes take a back seat to keeping the ship sailing on schedule. That safety drill at the start of your cruise might feel like a formality, but if a real emergency strikes, you're betting your life that the crew is trained and the equipment works perfectly. The evidence shows that's not always a safe bet. Family protection tip: pay attention during the safety drill. Seriously, note your primary and secondary muster stations. Actually walk the routes from your cabin and other places you'll spend time, like the dining room or kids club. When you get to your cabin, find the life jackets. Take a walk on deck and look at the lifeboats near your station. Do they look well maintained, or are they rusty and neglected? Trust your gut. The classic fear of falling overboard isn't just a dramatic movie plot. It's a real, terrifying danger, often linked to the very safety issues we've been talking about. Coast Guard inspections have flagged poor railings and cracks in decks, while CDC reports have cited missing safety signs and depth markers at pools. For families, the risks are everywhere. A slippery pool deck, an unstable railing on a high deck, or a dimly lit staircase can cause a serious fall for anyone, but especially an excited or distracted child. Today's megaships are designed like floating amusement parks, with rock-climbing walls, zip lines, and multi-story water slides towering over the open ocean. These thrill rides amplify the risks of being on a moving vessel hundreds of feet above the water. A man overboard incident is one of the most dire emergencies at sea. The chances of a quick and successful rescue are slim, especially at night or in rough waters. While the industry stresses that these events are rare, they happen. And when they do, it's often because a simple safety measure, a secure railing, good lighting, a dry deck, was overlooked. Family protection. Tip: the minute you get on board, set firm boundaries with your kids about deck safety. No climbing, no running, and no leaning over railings, ever. Hold their hands when you're walking on upper decks or near the ship's edge. And know that decks, especially around pools and bars, can be incredibly slippery. If you see a railing that looks loose or a deck area that seems unsafe, report it to the crew and keep your family away. One of the best parts of a cruise is waking up in a new country. But the second you step off that ship, the cruise line's promise of safety can disappear. Many families book cruise-approved shore excursions, thinking they've been carefully vetted. The reality is much more complicated. The cruise lines have very little direct control over these third-party tour operators, whose safety standards, equipment, and staff training can vary wildly from one port to another. Tragic incidents have happened on these excursions, including fatal tour bus crashes and injuries during activities like ziplining, ATV riding, or boat tours. A major hidden risk is the lack of emergency infrastructure in many port towns. A serious accident that would get a rapid medical response at home might face crippling delays in a remote location. When minutes count, that gap can be fatal. You're placing your family's safety in the hands of a local operator who may not be properly licensed or insured, all under the false security of the cruise line's logo on your ticket. Family protection. Tip: if you're going to book an excursion, booking directly through the cruise line offers a slightly better layer of accountability than using a random vendor on the pier. For any activity involving speed or heights, like jet skis or parasailing, ask direct questions about their safety record and insurance. If the equipment looks old or the staff seems unprofessional, walk away. Your family's life isn't worth the price of a fun afternoon. When a medical emergency strikes at home, you call an ambulance and head to a hospital. At sea, your options are frighteningly limited. Every large cruise ship has a medical center, but it's basically an urgent care clinic, not an emergency room. A ship with over 5,000 passengers and crew might have just 2 doctors and a few nurses on board. This tiny team has to handle everything from seasickness to cardiac arrests. For a major medical event like a stroke, heart attack, or serious injury, the ship's facility simply isn't equipped. The only real option is a medical evacuation to a hospital on land, which can be hours or even days away. That delay can be the difference between life and death. Furthermore, some insiders raise concerns about whether cost-cutting influences medical staffing decisions on board. When your child has a severe allergic reaction or your spouse has a heart attack in the middle of the Atlantic, you're putting all your trust in that small, potentially overworked team. Family protection. Tip: talk with your family doctor before you cruise, especially if anyone has a pre-existing condition. Buy comprehensive travel insurance that specifically covers emergency medical evacuation at sea, and make sure you understand the policy. Pack a serious first aid kit with more than just Band-Aids. Include any prescriptions, allergy treatments, and anything else you might need. Don't assume the ship's store will have it. Our final danger is one you'll never see coming. Cruise ships have become floating smart cities, with their navigation, communication, and safety systems all connected to computer networks, and those networks are vulnerable. In January 2025, the U.S. Coast Guard issued a new rule to enforce cybersecurity on vessels, acknowledging the threat is real and growing. Past incidents have shown the potential for chaos. The Coast Guard has reported that malware has disabled shipboard computer systems and vessels have experienced GPS jamming during docking. Think about what that means. A hacker could potentially interfere with the ship's navigation, shut down the engines, or disable safety monitors. A successful cyber attack could cause a collision, a grounding, or a total power blackout at sea. You are placing your trust in a vessel whose digital defenses are only now facing real scrutiny, and a single vulnerability could put everyone on board in peril. Family protection. Tip: you can't defend the ship's network, but you can protect your own information. Be extremely careful about using the ship's public Wi-Fi for sensitive things like banking. Use a VPN to encrypt your connection if you have to go online. And remember, the threat isn't just remote hackers. Theft of phones and laptops on board is also a risk. Cruising can be a fantastic way for families to make memories. Millions of people do it every year without a problem. But that doesn't mean the dangers aren't real or that they aren't growing. The point of this isn't to tell you to never step on a cruise ship again. It's to shatter the illusion of a perfectly safe bubble. True safety doesn't come from blind trust. It comes from awareness. By knowing about the rise in crime, the sanitation failures, and the other hidden risks, you are no longer just a passive passenger. You are an informed traveler, a vigilant parent, and your family's best line of defense. So before you book that balcony cabin and dream of tropical sunsets, do your research, ask the hard questions, and have a plan. Because on the open ocean, the person best equipped to protect your family is you. Stay safe out there.